I'm working on the coming Triennial that will take place in Ljubljana, and it's a Triennial that started in '94. It is always organized by Moderna Galleria in Ljubljana, and the idea was always that it is an overview of production happening, of artistic production happening in Slovenia, and there is always an alternating curator, once coming from, one year it's a local curator, and then 3 years later it could be an international curator. And it has a really specific history because it was such an interesting and diplomatic reaction that happened in the public sphere of in Slovenia when in '97 Peter Weibel was the first international curator, and he, while introducing his opinions on curating, he tore apart the public sphere in two halves. One that was supporting him and his way of thinking and the way Moderna Galleria has started to work, and the other half that comes from more conservative circles of art world in Slovenia. And so these two halves seem never to fully agree about what contemporary art is in this region, and it has been going on like this until today. But I'm just in the process of, since I'm based in Paris, it has been a really, since the last 7 years now, since almost 8 years, it's been really, it has quite moved, like I was very moved that this invitation came, because it enables me to be again as an outsider, half insider in the region where I grew up. And I'm right now very much, actually I will go for an idea that tries to present as much as possible the youngest production, the youngest generation of artists who are either performers, also choreographers, visual artists, and I have to say I'm very, although it's, as you might know, in Slovenia we have immense demonstrations at this very moment. So everybody's on the streets, all the cities. Some demonstrations have been more violent, some less. But it's been a really, it's a quite, let's say that the story of Slovenia being a very successful former communist country, and now becoming, it was the first country that entered the European Union and so on. This dream is really over, because the citizens are no longer, I wouldn't say blind, but they are no longer standing still in front of the information that there is a lot of corruption in this city and that there is in this state, and they are expressing this quite vividly. And so the situation where there is more and more poorness and more dissatisfaction and confidence with the political sphere is also very present in the artistic circles, of course, where I'm talking like when I'm doing these meetings with the young artists, it's I haven't met anybody that would be able to survive in any way just by doing what they are doing. Especially young artists that are coming out from the school, try to look for other jobs, try to go out as well, out from the country. So I'm very, I'm listening a lot to what they have to say about the way they sustain their practices and the way they can envision it all to work as an artist. And I have to say it's I see a very dark vision. So it's something that I would like to bring forward in this triennial. So this idea also of trying to see if, just like, for example, some parts of the Occupy movement was also working in that sense, and it's an old question of whether some local issues can be represented on a more international or more global way. So this is what I'm quite interested in. And the other thing that I'm interested in is the concept of cohabitation, where, for example, I'm quite influenced from the French political jargon, where cohabitation means that the president and the premier minister, how do you call it, the first minister of the government are not from the same parties, and they have to fine tune. They have to listen to each other if they want some important decisions to be made, that they are made. And this is something that doesn't exist in Slovenia, not at this moment. And it also involves the way artists can work together and the way they collaborate. So I will be researching this subject. I don't know if you know about this book written by Gregory Cholette, American New York-based artist and activist, who wrote a book called Dark Matter. And it came out several years ago, and he was really talking about the 1% and 99%. Meaning the 1% that is visible, highly visible, that is something that we relate as contemporary art, and then the 99% that are creative people that have diplomas and masters in fine arts, but never find their way to sustain their practice in any other way. And they become, they go in many other directions that are possible, but he was interested in this idea of dark matter, of something that is invisible but very, very present. And so I think it's these conditions are almost everywhere we look today. I'm talking now more in the world that is that has, so let's say, the global north, as we call it now, that has a super developed art system and so on. I think it's, and if we look at the global south, into the regions like, let's say, African continent or South America, this has always been the issue anyhow, the relationship with the society and the highly engaged artistic practice. I think there has been probably always a kind of continuation. Whereas here in the history of Western Europe or Western world, we have more and more, we have this kind of rupture since many decades, where especially here in France, for example, I'm amazed by the way how there is still this prevailing of the idea that there can be a history of art written from the side of the objects, that there is just the objects that we can observe autonomously from how they were produced, how they were distributed, how all this history of art, I think it's really to be rewritten. I think also if we talk about the objects, how can you dissolve the subject, the subjectivity, in that way? Because I remember clearly how I was taught in Slovenia, also during the art history courses. I remember clearly how in some there was classes on Middle Age art in the region of Yugoslavia, and I just remember half a year of learning about the way the different folds were done and the way these folds turned. Then we can, the highly specialized issues that interested nobody. you know.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot to be done, and there are a lot of different approaches that are possible in this way. And of course, a lot has been done via the artists themselves. Artists working on the archives, or especially in the region of former Eastern Europe, there has been a lot of positions of artists where they took over this this wish to be actively involved into another way of writing the history of art.